Okay, let's get started. I think almost all of you, most of you have probably met Jan already. He's my husband. And Jan is doing two things at the moment, at least professionally. He is getting a PhD in migration studies, and he's also working on a research project at a university. And for that, he has to deal with a lot of knowledge. And for that, he uses Obsidian. And today he's going to tell us about how he manages all of his thoughts and ideas and just all of the things he comes across and how he finds those. Because that's something I usually struggle with. Like I put notes somewhere and I don't know where I put them and I forget about them and I have no way to connect them. And he has a method for that. So Jan, please tell us all about it.
Yeah, thank you for the opportunity. Just to let you know, Google just showed me a message that I have connection issues. So I don't know why that is happening. There should be plenty of internet being provided, but yeah, okay. I hope that it will work. And yeah, let me share my screen. At least the important part. Okay, can you all see the Obsidian app?
It's coming up.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay. Yeah,
Can you zoom in a little bit though? Because this for me, it's quite small.
I have literally no experience with Google Meet, so I have no idea how to zoom in.
Can you zoom in on Obsidian and make everything bigger? If not, we'll figure it out.
Let me try. So now I've increased the font sizes and everything else.
Much better, thank you.
Okay, cool. Yeah, if you have any questions during my talk, feel free to interrupt and ask your questions. And because sometimes it's better to address questions when they occur and not wait until the end. Just one question more regarding Google Meet. Can I see the face gallery somehow when I'm sharing the screen? Because right now I'm talking into a void and I have.
I don't think
you
can.
Okay.
You would have to move it to a
worries.
second screen if you have that open.
Yeah. Okay. No, it doesn't matter. Okay. So let's get started. For the beginning, I'd like to talk about what is Obsidian and some basic functionality. And then more specifically about my use case and why I use it for basically all the work I do on a given day. And yeah, in the end, I'd like to show you some feature examples to get you or to give you an idea of what Obsidian is capable of, and yeah, then we can address some questions. So what is Obsidian? It's basically just a layer on top of a folder of Markdown files. It's really not more than this. I hope that I can also show you my Finder window. But right now you only see the Obsidian window, don't you?
Yeah, you would have to share the entire screen and not just the window.
Okay. Well, then I stay in Obsidian then. It's too complicated otherwise. The structure you see over here is basically just a replication of what you could find in the Finder. I have my own folder structure, and Obsidian shows these folders with all the notes, and every line you can see here is basically just another node I have in folders and subfolders. So it's really very, very simple to understand. So it is this layer of software, and what it sets apart from other solutions is, on the one hand, that it has an open plugin infrastructure. So it can be it comes out right out of the box with certain functionality, but can do so much more than what it does initially. I will give you some examples later on. And it is in general extremely customizable in terms of functionality, in terms of looks, and how it feels, how it works. It is a good solution for someone who wants to tailor their own solution basically, and who is interested in digging into the program at least to some degree. And the core feature which I would highlight is that it is extremely easy to connect different nodes and therefore knowledge, which is obviously a very important part if knowledge work is of a certain importance to your daily work. And what I mean by this is, I will show you right now. I mean, here I have this just written, what is Obsidian? But what I have not done at this point is turned it into a link, because actually it is already a file which exists as part of
I think CD. Sorry to interrupt. I think CD has a question.
Thanks, Neil. Thanks, Jan. I wanted to ask, I think you've said nodes maybe once or twice already. Can you please just tell me what a node is in this context?
Oh, yeah, sure. It's basically a markdown document. Okay. And I tend to call it nodes because, yeah, it's the terminology I use. Because, yeah, I think in every document I do, no matter how short or long it might be, how complex it in my mind, it's a node. Yeah.
Is it because you kind of have this in your mind as like a mind map, or kind of another way to think about it is I'm making nodes and some of them connect, some of them don't, or not necessarily mind mappy stuff?
Not necessarily. It probably comes from note taking, and also in the wider, let's call it, knowledge management community, there is this idea of actually quite some ideas about how to best manage knowledge, and one idea would be the Zettelkasten method and so on, and they all talk all day long about nodes. So I think it just has ingrained in my brain, and that's why I talk about it as nodes.
Cool, thank you. So note with a T.
With a T, yes. Sorry, not with a D, with a T. Yeah, like note taking. Yeah.
Cool, thanks, Jan.
Okay, so right, connecting documents or nodes or whatever you would like to call it is really very easy, because the only thing you have to do is type 2 square brackets, and it will turn anything into its own document. In this case, it was already created, so by typing these 2 brackets, I set a link to this existing node, and I can open it and see what's in there. You can also, if you just type 2 square brackets, you will get a window with basically all the nodes you have in your overall folder. In Obsidian terminology, it would be your vault, but yeah, you can call it whatever you'd like to. And then you can search for another node. Let's take, for example, something from right here, from next part, customizability. I type some letters and it shows up, and I hit the return button and it will autocomplete, and I have made a connection to this already existing node. Yeah, and then it does, let's call it a little trick, because it's not only linking to this node, but it also backlinks, which means that because I have set this link, because I have put in a link at this in this node, it also shows me the nodes which it is linking from. So I can see that this node is being linked to from my node about the talk today. And this comes in quite handy when you want to make connections or see different sources for a topic, for example. Yeah, and can be quite helpful.
Can I ask a question?
Yeah, sure.
Can you also create a node on the fly like this? Or does it have to exist already?
No, you can absolutely create a node on this way. Let me type the square brackets and then very creative naming example node. So what you can see is that the green is slightly less green than this green. And this is because the node has not yet been created, but it just has been registered. Let's put it this way, in the Obsidian, I don't know, backend, for lack of a better word. So it is in the index, but it is not a node yet. You can also search for it for sample node, but it indicates that it is not in existence yet. But you can easily convert it into a real node, into a real document. Example node. Now you can start typing, and you see that this node is being linked to from the node we've just left.
And which folder is it put into?
It's put into the standard folder which I have configured, which would be my seedbox folder. It's right in here, but this is up to you. It's customizable.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
And then you could just start using standard Markdown to write. Heading 1. And what you will see when typing is that they have a kind of hybrid editor, which hides the Markdown syntax and converts it into basically readable text. But there is still a source mode for those of you who like to see the Markdown syntax. So you can change to this source view and see all your Markdown syntax. I prefer not to, which is why I use the live view. Yeah, and then just do whatever feels right. Bold, italic, of course. Strike through whatever Markdown offers. Yeah. All right.
Something that a developer would ask: can you do code blocks?
Yes, you can. You absolutely can. I think 3 backticks is the syntax for code blocks.
So, yeah. Do you know if it has syntax highlighted?
No, I don't. And
okay.
I'm pretty sure that it is not has not syntax highlighting out of the box. I'm not sure if there maybe is a plugin that does just this. Could be, but I'm not sure.
Probably.
I think it does actually. I've tried before.
Okay, then
yeah.
Coding is nothing which I would use in a normal use case. So this is something I'm not an expert on, and yeah, you would have to find out on your own. All right. Yeah, one more thing maybe to understand the basic functionality is we've talked about linking and backlinking and what it actually is. Another very important part are transfusions. That is what they call it. And it's basically to include a node into another node, or a document, the content of a document into another document. And it's very simple to do so. You just have to write an exclamation mark, and it will show the node's content, which you just have created. And you can also maybe just take the other example because it has headings. Okay, exclamation mark, double brackets, example node. So right now I see everything that the node has in it, but I can also filter by heading, for example, to only see what is under heading 1, heading 2, how many headings there might be. But you can also filter on a block level, which are in this case 4 blocks. So if I would choose bold italic strike through, I only see this section included and linked to. So this is pretty neat to combine the content of more than one or several nodes or documents in, let's call it a meta document, and can be very useful for use cases like wikis or overviews of a wider topic or anything like that. All right. One more thing maybe the commands. You have a command palette, which is, I have it on Command K, but you can customize it however you'd like to. So a command palette, and you also have slash commands, which I think Notion has too. So if you're familiar with Notion, this should also feel familiar. Yeah, are there any questions at this point?
I guess if you do the nesting, if you were just to export a file, you would only see the I guess syntax for linking a node, but you wouldn't see the node like contents.
They are working on this feature as far as I'm aware. If you would, well, you would have switched to reading mode, so it is not editable anymore. And then you could, if you would export it to PDF, you would see all the content also from the included nodes.
Okay, that's pretty cool.
Yeah, there are also third-party plugins which let you create a new file from one file which has other nodes included. This is also possible, but you would need a plugin, a third-party plugin for this use case. Okay, let's talk about a bit customizability. I think it is fair to say that Obsidian is one of the most customizable apps I've ever seen. Let's start with themes. How to give you an impression. Can you see the other Obsidian window?
No.
No.
Just
okay.
one.
Well, it doesn't matter too much. I just wanted to show you what Obsidian looks like right out of the box, but you can also skip this part and you can find out on your own if you'd like to. In the settings, you have this appearance setting, and there you have the themes section. Right now I'm using the minimal theme with a greenish accent color. But you can also, if you click on manage, you will find out that there is a theme gallery provided by the community with currently 130 themes, actively developed, more or less actively developed themes. So this is the default one by Obsidian themselves, minimal, which I use. But there are some pretty wild ones, and probably for every case there is something, I don't know, border theme, which is, yeah, I mean, I don't have to describe it to you because you can see it on your own. So that's interesting. I'm not sure if this would be performance enhancing, but at least 36,000 people seem to like it. So I guess, yeah. So you can go wild, and theming is just one part of the experience, because many themes also come themselves with a lot of customizability, where you can tweak things, and you also, on top of that, can include custom CSS to really dig down for certain things. As you can see, that I have tried some snippets. Most of them are deactivated at the moment, and yeah. So there's a lot to experience and try out. But that's only in terms of looks. It really gets interesting when it comes to the community plugins. Maybe one word about core plugins, because the thing you have to understand is that Obsidian is extremely how is it called? You have many moving parts which you can decide if you want to use them or not. And this includes also some very basic, or which seems to me basic functionality. For example, the file browser is something you could switch off if you probably want a really minimal writing environment, and only use search and not the browser. You could switch it off. It's actually not an issue. Yeah, so this is what Obsidian, or what the Obsidian developer team provides in terms of plugins, which is really actually basic functionality. And then you have this community plugins section where the fun really starts. At the moment, we have more than 1,500 plugins, which all provide certain functionality, and which are all tested in security terms by the Obsidian developers, and are in the official Obsidian store, for the lack of a better word, with the largest one being downloaded by 8.1 million people. Excalibur, which can be a part of Obsidian, and you can really go wild in terms of plugins. I will show you some examples in a little while, but you really have to find out on your own, and or let's say define your use case and define what problems you would like to solve, and then look for the appropriate plugin. All right. Let's close this. Customizability. Yeah.
Can I ask a question?
Of course.
What does the Git plugin do?
It backs up my files to a closed Git repository.
Oh, cool.
Yeah. So I can actually demonstrate it. Create backup. Yeah. And it will, yeah, you all know Git, so I don't have to explain Git to you. And I just backed up 88 files to my closed Git repository. And yeah, I mean, these files are the most freshest files, maybe besides family photos, I have on my computer. So I want to make sure that they are safe and that there are different backup strategies in place, and Git is one of them. Yeah, so the GitHub plugin does write this. All right, so why do I like Obsidian? What are my needs? it allows me to focus on my research and writing. It gets out of my way when thinking, because the one reason why I've started to look for applications like Obsidian was that I hated to work with, I don't know, many different Word files or things like that. Even also Google Docs is not much better. And it's always a hassle to integrate different sources and work on big projects. So I wanted something where I can very easily link to different files and refine knowledge I've created at an earlier point. And Obsidian is perfect for this endeavor. It is also, put it another way, if you put a lot of work and knowledge into an application, you probably want to make sure that it will be there for a very long time and that you have no lock-in effects, which could occur when you would trust this knowledge to a proprietary platform with proprietary standards and file formats. And that, for example, a very good example is Evernote, which is not impossible to get things out of, but not very easy also. So this is a concern to me. What happens if Obsidian goes out of business? What happens to my data? And for these concerns, Obsidian is the perfect solution, because, as I said earlier, it's just a layer of software on top of my Markdown files, and I will always have my Markdown files. They are locally on my computer. I can just take them and do whatever I want with these files. Yeah, and they also are very much concerned in terms of open standards and value open standards a lot, which is why they focus so much on Markdown. And every functionality they add is just a layer to make the appearance nicer, but not something which would change the standard, which is below the using experience. A great example are tables. I mean, you can do tables in Markdown, but it's always a bit of a hassle. And in Obsidian, you have this nice, functionality, which makes it just a bit nicer to work with columns in Markdown. Something like this indicator and easy ways to add more columns and rows and so on. But if you toggle source mode, you see that it is just standard Markdown and the standard way to create tables in Markdown. So nothing is lost if you're not able to use Obsidian anymore. Yeah, then syncing is of course an issue, and in this regard, Obsidian has several solutions. They have their own syncing solution, which is end-to-end encrypted and which you can pay for on a monthly or yearly basis. But you can also use other syncing engines, iCloud, Dropbox, etc., and just choose what you like best. And then there's the question of subscriptions. I mean, we probably all have too many subscriptions for software and content and whatnot. And in Obsidian, you don't have to pay a subscription. Let's put it this way. Actually, if you use it just for your private use, you can use it for free. And you can choose to pay a supporter's fee, something like that, to support the development. And there is a business license. which costs money. And then you can choose to pay for the syncing solution, the syncing service, and for a web publishing service, which turns your Markdown files into websites. So these are their income streams. But if you prefer to, you can just use it for free and have no further cost. All right. Let's go back. Yeah, what is Obsidian for me? It is a research tool. Obviously, it is my writing environment. It's also a scratchpad for shorter notes, just to write something quickly down and come back to it later. It is also my journal. I write daily notes every day. You can see the calendar over here. And if I would click on to one of the days, a daily note would open in which I basically journal random thoughts and so on. And it is also a place for meeting notes. I will talk about meeting notes at the end a bit more. So these are the use cases, my use cases for Obsidian. But this also implies what it is not for me. And it is not a to-do manager. It is not the final step before publishing, and it is not a collaborative tool. It can be a to-do manager. It has a powerful task plugin, which is actively developed and adds stuff all the time. It is, for those of you who are familiar, a comparable approach to org mode on Emacs. It is very text-focused approach to tasks. And if this is what you're looking for, then go for it. I've used the task plugin for quite some time, but then decided that I'd like to separate my task and project management from my writing. So that's why I don't use it as a task manager, but you totally can. But yeah, the final step before publishing and collaboration are probably not the strongest parts Obsidian has to offer. And I would advise to use different tools if you would like to do these things. All right. Now I'd like to talk a bit more about my personal workflow and what I use certain plugins for and in what ways. I basically do two things all day long. On the one hand, doing research, and on the other hand, organizing research, trying to get an overview, trying to keep track of things, how my coworkers are doing, and everything which belongs to projects of a certain size. And let me give you some examples of how I do this. Yeah, we've already talked about links and backlinks. This is a transclusion, which is basically the foundation of everything else. Then you have properties. Properties are basically metadata for files. You can see it up here. And again, it is just a nicer way of displaying and working with standard data formats, because if you'd see the raw Markdown file, this would be YAML. So also an open standard, which is well supported by other software, and then so nothing proprietary. But Obsidian adds this easy way to add data or metadata to files, also of different types, property type, text, list, number, checkbox, date and time. So if you'd like to add metadata to files, you can do so by adding by working with properties. And this comes in handy in conjunction with the next thing, which is the data view plugin, which is probably the most advanced plugin you can find for Obsidian. It has been downloaded by 1.5 million people, so it's extremely popular. And I can see why, because it gives you, it offers you a way to query your files. Let me show you an example. It comes with its own querying language, and gives you the opportunity to query over your files and to for example, show them on the basis of a certain property, which I just shown. And if I click into this, onto this button, edit this block, you see the query which is below. It starts with an indicator that this is a data view block. I'd like to have a table. Then I define the columns. I define from where the nodes should be drawn. This just basically says from everywhere, from all the folders. And now I insert a specifier at this part. In this case, that the topic is MLG, which stands for multi-level governance, which is very important, or the theoretical part of my dissertation, and that it should be sorted from I think from A to Z basically. This by status. So by status, that's basically if I've already read this paper or completed working with it. So this is, but data view has, as I said, quite easy to understand querying language, but it also has an API for JavaScript for more complex tasks. This is above my pay grade, and if I need something more complex which is written in JavaScript, I tend to ask ChatGPT to write me something nice, but most of the times I just want an overview table like this, in which I can track my literature progress, for example. But you can do it for all kinds of purposes, really. Also for more fun purposes, like, I don't know, tracking your video games or whatever you'd like to. Okay. So this is data view. And next example would be Kanban boards. I mean, I'm sure that you're familiar with the idea of a Kanban board. I like to use it for tracking interviews and for tracking progress in general. In this particular case, I have some candidates I'd like to interview at the beginning, and then the different stages. I move them from left to right, just to have an overview. But in this case, it's also very interesting because you could wonder if this also is Markdown, and it 100% is, because if you click this button, Open as Markdown, you'll see that it is just a very normal Markdown document with headings and then yeah, bullet points. Or and in source mode, you can see the Markdown syntax. Yeah, so it just has this small settings box at the very end of the document, but it's just Markdown, and you can flip between the Markdown view and the Kanban view. So now it's a Kanban again, and this is what I mean by the notion of a layer on top of a Markdown folder, is that it adds functionality and makes it nicer to work with the Markdown files, but it honors the concept of the open standard, which is below. All right. Here we go. Oh, this would be Kanbans. Yeah, a word about data and knowledge organization. I basically use two approaches, one very manual and another a bit more visual. The first one are hubs. This is basically just what I call it, because it's just a list of links, written paragraphs, transclusions from different nodes, and long lists of linking to other nodes. And for me, hubs are a starting point for bigger projects, which I can come back to and then start working from to basically organize where to start. And the second thing would be canvases, which are also functionality which Obsidian has since, I don't know, they haven't had it at the beginning, but they introduced it at some point. And it's a canvas view. You can zoom in, and then let me adjust a bit and place all kinds of existing nodes from your vault on this canvas, and use arrows to describe relationships or whatnot. And the interesting part is that you can, on the one hand, you can combine graphical elements with existing nodes, but on the other hand, you can also write directly into nodes which are without actually opening them. You are still on the whole canvas, but you are able to write text into nodes which you link to. So if you are more a visual kind of person, which likes to take a bird's eye view, the canvas functionality is probably what you should go for.
Sorry, Jan, just a question from City. I just wanted to check, is the canvas part of the core plugins, core functionality, or is it a
Yeah,
custom
it is.
plugin?
Core. No, it is. They introduced it at some point, and I'm not 100% sure, because this is not only Markdown, but they have developed an open standard which is behind all of this. You could look it up. I don't have it available right now, but yeah. So also this part of Obsidian is compatible with or potentially compatible with other software solutions. And is not something which is closed down, and yeah, it is part of the core plugins. Yeah.
And I'm just wondering, could you create relationships between nodes from the canvas view? So relationships that did not, that did not pre-exist.
Okay, let's. So what you could obviously do is to write into the node and then create a relationship like that. So this would work. I don't think that if you, for example, use this create an arrow from this node to this, that it adds a relationship. That's also
just create it.
Yeah, but only visually, I think, not on the file level. Yeah, but this is also actually something I've never asked myself. So I would need to find it out on my own or as well. But I don't think that it creates an actual relationship on the file level.
Okay, cool. Thank you.
All right. Yeah, exactly. Projects and meetings is one of the last things to talk about. This is again something which you would need a third-party plugin for. And if you edit, you can get this button over here. You can also get a command from which you can trigger by using a hotkey, for example, or via the command palette. But let me click this button and it opens this view. At least it should. There we go. And this plugin basically provides a way to track knowledge, to track meetings and projects in general. This is a recent one, an upcoming meeting for my work, and it's nothing fancy, but an easy way to automatically track meeting notes which are in a certain folder or have some criteria, and you can filter and sort them and stuff like this. So this is how I track my meetings, for example. I can also look at past meetings. So these are my past meeting notes, but it's very let's say manual, because you have to create the meeting note, and then it's all based on properties in the end. And I've decided to have a status field for my meetings in which I enter if it is in the planning stage, or if it is today, or debriefing, or if it is done. And the meetings which are in the past meetings view are there because I have defined the status as done, and that's changes the meeting from. I think it takes so long because it is I've changed the font size. Yeah. So that's, but this is maybe in something you would have to think about in general, is that Obsidian is not the super polished software solution like Notion, for example, but it is really more about finding your own way. It has not a predefined folder structure or anything like that. You really have to develop your own idea of how to use it, what suits you best, what are your needs, and then if you have defined what your needs are, I'm pretty sure that Obsidian can offer you a solution. But it is probably not the perfect solution if you would just like to have something which works out of the box perfectly and is super polished, because it's a product or an application for people which like to fiddle around a bit and find their own approach. But this is also an upside because you can really define how it should look like and feel and work like, and what you need and what you don't need on the other hand. Yeah, so that's that's it from my side for the moment. Are there any questions left?
Yeah, I had a question. You just briefly mentioned like folder structure as being something that you have to like bring your own opinion to. Do you have like a philosophy on that, or like strong opinions about like how you organize things, like just in terms of like, well, do you just have any opinions on that?
I do. I can just quickly go through my folder structure. I have this, I call it seed box. It's the first folder where every new document starts. If I create a new node, it will go into this folder, and if something is in here, it has to be dealt with at some point. I have a notes folder which contains basically everything which is not connected to a certain project, but is more general knowledge of all kinds. Stuff like this. And then I have a PhD folder because it takes so much, so many nodes on its own, and is such a large project that I wanted it to separate a bit from the rest. I also have I have some sub folder structure in my PhD folder, which is organized around the structure of my dissertation. I have a projects folder which is for more recent projects which are on a smaller scale, and I tend to have project related knowledge and notes in this folder, and they can be moved at some point to a different place, sometimes to the notes folder if the project is done. Then I have a resources folder which has different kinds of notes in it, but mostly with, let's call it, infrastructure notes, so about certain people or meeting notes, my daily notes, and stuff like this. Also my literature notes, which is quite a lot, because I add all my reading notes from the PDFs I read for my work or for the PhD. I create markdown files from the highlighted parts of the note and add some metadata for the source basically, and then add it to Obsidian to work with it and to include it in my own writing. This is a photo about the project I work for. So it's also a very big project, which is why I gave it its own folder. And down here, there's an attachments folder for images and PDFs and so on. Excalibur has its own folder, but I don't use it. It just sits there and is used for the Excalibur plugin. And then I have two folders for my personal website and the second website, which I publish through Obsidian Publish, which I mentioned in the very beginning. So yeah, I have folders for these websites.
A question, like I see that in Obsidian all the time, they really hype up the graph functionality.
Oh, right. Yeah.
Is it like, useful?
It is a cool party trick, but I've not shown it to you, and for a reason, because it is. I show it to you in a second. It's just, for me, it has almost no value, except that it looks cool. But the idea is that you can see all the connections between your nodes in the graph view, and it would look like this. So these are all of my nodes and how they are connected, and you can zoom into it and see the larger a dot gets, the more connections it has. Yeah. So this is the graph view. Actually, the time lapse function is even cooler, because then you can see what you have done over the past weeks, months, years, and how things have developed. And I'm sure that some people find value in this function. I don't, to be honest, except for looking at it. Sometimes I used, well, this was the overall graph view, but there is also a local graph view, which is a bit more useful, because it is a graph view for the file you have currently opened, and you can define how many levels you'd like to go. Yeah. So if I'm only at the first level, I only see that the questions document links to the Obsidian talk document, and if I add one more level, I also see what other files link to the Obsidian talk file, and if I go one level more, I see again a level more of connections. And now it gets a bit messier. Yeah, so this might be helpful for people who think more visually, or who like to see the connections, and maybe also work a bit differently than I do. For example, if you have many, or if you split a topic into many different separate files, then I think this could be useful, because then you can see all the connections. And if you then write about this topic, it could be helpful to see